Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera untuk kita semuanya. Perkenalkan, nama saya Dr. Kemandirian. Saya merupakan dosen dari program studi Sarana Terapan Administrasi Perkantoran Digital, Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Universitas Negeri Jakarta. Saya merupakan dosen pembimbing kedua dari mahasiswa yang bernama Windy Fitria Wiranti dengan judul skripsi Pengaruh Efikasi Diri dan Dukungan Sosial Terhadap Stres Akademik Siswa SMK Negeri 46 Jakarta. Berikut adalah pemaparan penelitian tersebut.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Praise and gratitude have been to the presence of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Because of His grace, I have to make a video for the requirement of the thesis session. Before starting the presentation, allow me to thank you to my surrounding past PDMM as a study program coordinator. Also, thank you for Dr. Puji Wahono as M.si as supervising lecturer 1, and Mrs. Afi Sumiati as PDMM as supervisor 2, who always guide me in writing this thesis. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Imelda Citra Maharani from Office Administration Education Study Program, Faculty of Economy, Jakarta State University. Today, I will presentation about my thesis entitled The Influence of Learning Motivation and Learning Infrastructure on Learning Independency of Students at 22 Professional High School, Jakarta. In this presentation, I will discuss about 5 chapters mainly. Chapter 1 is Introduction, Chapter 2 is Literature Review, Chapter 3 is Research Method, Chapter 4 is Result and Discussion, and the last, Chapter 5 is Closing. The background of this research began with one of Indonesian education goals is developing student potential to become an independent human researcher. This is also stated in Rencana Pembangunan Jangka Menengah, one of which concerns improving the quality of human research so that they have an independent character. However, in reality, students are often passive in learning activity. This problem is reflected in the result of a survey conducted by 2018 Program Offer International Student Assessment or PISA. Indonesian education ranked 72 out of 77 countries. This is in line with data published by the World Population Review in 2021. In Indonesia, education is ranked 54 out of 78 countries. Learning independence is important for students to have, which can make the student achieve learning goal according to their ability and not depend on others. This was even more obvious during the COVID-19 pandemic. UNESCO reported the COVID-19 outbreak is disrupting at least 1.6 billion students worldwide. Reporting from Compasiana.com, student learning independency during distance learning show negative initiatives, such as not participating in learning, turning off the camera, or leaving the learning platform without the teacher permission, and being passive during discussion. This is in line with the research of Niema and Kosa 2020, where students feel tired and tend to be less independent in learning. It can be seen from the figure based on the data released by PPS 2022. It showed that SMK has the highest employment rate at 9.42%. According to Prianto 2021, the high of an employment rate, especially at the SMK level, indicate a gap in knowledge and incompatibility with the goals of SMK, namely to prepare graduates who are competent, productive, and independent. This phenomena is a problem in itself that learning independency is an important key for students to face learning challenge in the midst of changing situation. In the current conditions, students need to have learning independency in order to able to adapt to various existing change and explore various learning that will help students become independent learners and be able to overcome challenges that may arise in the future. This learning independency at secondary level school, especially vocational high school, is very important to strive for. This independent learning at secondary level school, especially vocational high school, is very important to be pursued more seriously, systematically, and programmed. Based on the background, the researcher conducted a pre-research to determine the level of the learning independency of students at Vocational High School 22 Jakarta. The result of the pre-research showed that only a few students studied the material that had been explained by the teacher, with 33.3% students choosing never. Furthermore, 36.7% of students choose never to try to do their own assignment. Next, 40% students do not have the initiative to learn on their own, and learning independency is not yet reflected because 40% students choose never and 30% students choose sometimes because they are not used to make their own study plan. From the overall result of the pre-research conducted by the researchers, it can be concluded that the level of learning independency of student vocational high school 22 Jakarta is relatively low. According to Hamalik, the factors that can influence learning independency are divided into three. From this factor, the researcher made initial observation of students at Vocational High School 22 Jakarta regarding which factor had more influence on student learning independency, so that researcher could use the factor to be used as variable that could be measured in the study. Based on the result of pre-research, it was found that the factor the most influence in independence learning is learning motivation with 21% and infrastructure with 20%. Each study currently has a difference or novelty that can be used and the uniqueness of the research being conducted. The novelty of this research, including during the research was carried out after the COVID-19 pandemic, where students experienced the distance learning process, which tend to decrease student independency. Second is place of research. The research was carried out in vocational high school, where previously many study or learning independency were conducted at university level, such as the research conducted by Sudarwo, Togiti, and Avandi. And the last is sampling technique is proportional random sampling. Next is research question. First, is there direct influence between learning motivation on student learning independency at 22 Vocational High School Jakarta? Second, is there a direct effect of learning infrastructure on the learning independency of students at 22 Vocational High School Jakarta? Third, is there a direct influence between learning motivation and learning infrastructure on the learning independency of students at 22 Vocational High School Jakarta? Next is research objective. First, analyze the direct effect of learning motivation on student learning independency at 22 Vocational High School Jakarta. Second, analyzing the direct effect of learning infrastructure on the learning independency at 22 Vocational High School Jakarta. And the last, analyzing the direct effect of learning motivation and learning infrastructure on the student learning independency at 22 Vocational High School Jakarta. According to knowledge, learning independency is a process where individuals are fully responsible and take the initiative in diagnosing learning needs, formulating learning goals, identifying learning research, and evaluating learning outcomes. According to Sandberg, students who have learning independency can manage the self-responsibility even though there is no supervision from parents or teachers. According to Clayton, learning motivation is the tendency of students to carry out learning activities that are driven by the desire to achieve the best possible performance. According to Uno, motivation to learn is internal and external equivalent for students who are learning to make change in behavior, generally with several indicators or supporting elements. And according to Suhelyati, facilities are direct tools that are used, while infrastructure is tools that integrally become a support in achieving learning objectives. And according to Buffalo, facilities are all devices, material, and furniture that are directly used in the educational process at school. And infrastructure is device that indirectly support the educational process at school. Learning independency variable can be measured based on the following 5 indicators. First is behave based on own initiative. Second is confident. Third, responsible. Four, behave in discipline. And 5, have strong self-control. Next is learning motivation variable can be measured based on the following 6 indicators. First is desire and desire to be success. Second is encouragement and need for learning. Third is future hope and inspiration. Fourth is learning reward. 5, interesting activity. And 6, conducive learning environment. Next is infrastructure variable can be measured based on the following 6 indicators. First is a range of school building. Second is quantity and quality of classroom. Third is library function. Fourth is classroom and laboratory facility function. 5 is availability of textbooks. And 6, optimization of media or learning aids. Next is previous research. First is the influence of learning facility and student motivation toward the learning independency by Sudarwo et al. 2018. There is a positive and significant influence between learning infrastructure and motivation on learning independency. Next is pengaruh motivasi belajar, sarana prasarana, efikasi diri dan penyesuaian diri terhadap kemandirian belajar. By Sari et al. 2018, there is a simultaneous influence of learning motivation infrastructure on learning independency of 69.4%, and meanwhile partially learning motivation is 13.18% and learning infrastructure is 3.17%. And next is faktor yang mempengaruhi kemandirian belajar mahasiswa di Indonesia pada masa pandemi COVID-19. By Avandi 2022, there is a positive influence between learning infrastructure and motivation on learning independency. And the last is the role of motivation strategies and perceived factor hindering librarian junior high school student learning by Goblin and Kamu 2017. The result of the study show that motivation and learning infrastructure have an influence on the level of learning independency. Next is about research hypothesis. First, there is a positive and significant direct effect between learning motivation on student learning independency at 22 Vocational High School Jakarta. Second, there is a positive and significant direct effect between learning infrastructure on the learning independency at student 22 Vocational High School Jakarta. And the last, there is a positive and significant direct influence between learning motivation and learning infrastructure on the learning independency at 22 Vocational High School Jakarta. This research was carried out starting from January to July 2023. Within this time span, the research called track effectively, and researchers can focus on research results properly to collect data that will be used further for the research. This research was conducted at 22 Vocational High School Jakarta, located at Jalan Raya Condet, East Jakarta. 22 Vocational High School Jakarta is one of the public schools that has a vision of making students who study at the school become independent and superior competence. Research in obtaining accurate data, and more researchers have conducted research specifically on learning independency. However, students at Vocational High School Jakarta are considered very appropriate to be used in an insight. The study used a quantitative approach with a survey method to statistical analysis to test the hypothesis. Statistical analysis using multiple linear regression analysis. The population in this study were all students of 22 vocational high school Jakarta, totaling 792 students, within over the population of class 10 and 11 students of 22 vocational high school Jakarta, totaling 518 students. In taking the sample, the researcher used the proportional random sampling method. Based on the solvent calculation, the number of sample is 226 students. The data collection technique used is the survey method through observation and filling out questionnaire or primary data, and measurement of the instrument through a Likert scale, which consists of 5 alternative answers, and the data analysis technique used multiple linear regression technique with the SPSS program tool. The stage of data analysis are: first is descriptive statistical analysis, second is instrument test, third test requirement analysis, 4 classic assumption test, 5 multiple linear regression analysis, and 6 hypothesis testing. Based on the table, it can be seen that the characteristics of student respondents in terms of gender consisted of 82 male respondents, while the majority of respondents were dominated by 142 female students. Based on each characteristic, the most were at the age of 17, namely 18 students, followed by 73 students at 16 years old, and 52 students at 18 years old, and 17 students at 15 years old. Based on the class characteristic of the respondents, they were spread over several grade levels consisting for experience program. Next, the validity test of independent learning variable instrument using SPSS program 25.0. Criteria for decision making of the validity assessed on instrument. If outcome greater than R table, then the statement item are considered valid. Based on the result of trial on 13 students, it was found that after testing the validity of 25 statement item using the SPSS program, 5 statement item had to be dropped because the count value was smaller than the table value. That the way 20 items of the instrument will be used as the final instrument in measuring the learning intensity variable. Furthermore, in testing the reliability of instrument, it can be declared reliable. That is, if the comma alpha value is greater than 6.8, the instrument is declared reliable. Based on the result of the instrument reliability test, the independent learning variable has a comma alpha value of 0.8088, which means it's declared reliable. Next, test the validity of learning motivation variable instrument. Based on the result trial on 13 students, it was found that after testing the validity of 25 statement items using SPSS program, 3 statement items had to be dropped because the R count variable was smaller than the R table value. The way the 22 item of instrument will be used as the final instrument in measuring the learning motivation variable. Furthermore, in testing the reliability of an instrument, based on the result of in the instrument reliability test, the learning motivation variable has a comma alpha value of 0.877, which means it's declared reliable. Next, to test the validity of the instrument variable for learning infrastructure, based on the result of trial on 13 students, it was found that after testing the validity of 25 statement items using the SPSS program, 3 statement items had to be dropped because the R count value was smaller than the R table value. The way the 22 items of the instrument will be used as the final instrument in measuring learning infrastructure variable. Based on the result of the instrument reliability test, the learning infrastructure variable has a comma alpha value of 0.884, which means it's declared reliable. Based on the result of the analysis of the statistical description of the learning independence variable, it is known that the sample is 226, the minimum is 52, and the maximum is 87. The range is 35, mean is 74.77. The model is 73, the median is 75. Furthermore, the standard deviation is 6.564 with a variance value of 33.087. Based on the frequency distribution table, the highest frequency value is at the 6th interval class in the range 70 to 75 with a relative frequency set to 27%, while the lowest frequency value is the first interval class in the range 50 to 55 with a relative frequency of 1%. It can also be seen in the picture, the histogram graph of the learning independency variable. Based on the result of the analysis of the average score of the variable indicator of learning independency, it is known that level of student learning independency is the most influenced by the responsible indicator. Meanwhile, the indicator independency from other gives the less influence. Based on the result of the analysis of the statistical description of the learning motivation variable, it is known that sample is 226, the minimum is 53, and the maximum is 95. The range is 42, mean is 82.03. The model is 81, the median is 82. Furthermore, the standard deviation is 7.668 with a variance value of 58.795. Based on the frequency distribution table, the highest frequency value is the 6th class interval class in the range 78-82, while the lowest frequency value is the first class interval in the range 53-57. It can also be seen in the picture, the histogram graph of the learning motivation variable. Based on the result of the analysis of the average score of the variable indicator of learning motivation, it is known that the level of student learning motivation is most influenced by the future health indicator. Meanwhile, the indicator in learning gives the less influence. Based on the result of the analysis of the statistical description of the learning infrastructure variable, it is known that the sample is 226. The minimum is 55 and the maximum is 98. The range is 43. The mean is 82.22. The model is 75. The median is 83. Furthermore, the standard deviation is 7.268 with a variance value of 52.822. Based on the frequency distribution table, the highest frequency value is in the 6th class interval in the range 80-84, while the lowest frequency value are in the first and second class interval in the range 55-59 and 60-64. It can also be seen in the figure, the histogram graph of the learning infrastructure variable. Based on the result of the analysis, the average score of the student learning infrastructure variable indicator is the most influenced by the structure of school building indicator with a percentage of 70.5%. Meanwhile, the indicator of media or learning aid has the less influence, namely 15.8%. The normality test in the study uses the Kolmogorov mirror normality. The normality test criteria is M.si, value greater than 0.05. The data is normal distributed. Based on the result of the analysis and the normality test, the results obtained are illustrated that the equation of the SF sake on the Kolmogorov mirror test is 0.060 greater than 0.05. Then the probability plot graph, the data spread around the diagonal has and follow the diagonal direction, so it can be concluded that the data is normally distributed. The linearity test in the study is the test of linearity with the criteria if the sig linearity value is less than 0.05 and the sig deviation from linearity value is greater than 0.05, then the data has a linear relationship. Variable motivation to learn with independent learning. It is known the half value of sig linearity is 0.000 less than 0.05, and the value sig of deviation from linearity is 0.222 greater than 0.05. It can be concluded that the variable of learning motivation and learning independency have a linear relationship and fulfill the assumption of linearity. Based on the result of the analysis on the variable linearity test of learning infrastructure facility with the learning independency, sig linearity value of 0.000 less than 0.05 would contain an sig deviation from linearity value of 0.366 greater than 0.05. It can be concluded that the learning infrastructure variable with independent learning independency has a linear relationship and fulfill the assumption of linearity. Based on the result of the analysis on the multicollinearity test, it can be concluded that the two independent variables, namely learning motivation and learning infrastructure, do not have a multicollinearity problem. Based on the result of the analysis on the heterodicity test, the unstandardized residual sig value in the experimental test for the learning motivation variable is 0.973 greater than 0.05, and for the learning infrastructure variable, the sig value is 0.548 greater than 0.05. Then on the scatter plot chart, the pattern of dots break above and below the number 0 on the y-axis and does not form the pattern. Based on this, it can be concluded that there is no heterodicity problem. Referring to the multiple linear regression equation, it can be seen that the learning motivation variable has a regression coefficient value of 0.059 and the infrastructure variable has a regression coefficient value of 0.824. In other words, if a student at 22 vocational high school Jakarta do not have a study motivation and good infrastructure at school to support their learning activity, students tend to have a low learning independency and risk scores. This shows that infrastructure has a great contribution to the level of independency of student learning at 22 vocational high school Jakarta. Based on the result of the analysis of the F-test, it can be concluded that the two independent variables, namely learning motivation and learning infrastructure, simultaneous or together have a significant effect on the variable learning and the independency. Based on the result of the analysis on the partial test or t-test, it can be concluded that the two independent variables, namely learning motivation and learning infrastructure, partially or each have a significant effect on the defined variable, namely learning independency. Based on the result of the analysis on the coefficient of determination test for the influence between learning motivation and learning infrastructure or learning independency that is equal to 0.873 or 87.3%, which is included in the category of having a very strong influence. Effect of learning motivation on learning independency. Hypothesis 1, become value to 0.798 greater than t-table 1.651 and sig value 0.006 less than 0.05. So it can be concluded that there is a direct and significant influence between learning motivation on student learning independency at 22 vocational high school School Jakarta, the higher the learning motivation as on a student has a higher level of learning independency. Second, the effect of learning infrastructure on learning independency. Hypothesis 2, the T count value is 36.725 greater than T table 1000.651, and the sig value is 0.000 less than 0.05. So it can be concluded that there is a direct and significant effect on learning infrastructure on learning independency of students at 22 Vocational High School Jakarta. The better the available infrastructure, the higher the learning independency of a student. And the last, third, effect of learning motivation and learning infrastructure on learning independency. Hypothesis 3, the F count value is 767.635 greater than F table 3.04, and the sig value is 0.000 less than 0.05. So it can be concluded that the two independent variables, namely learning motivation and learning infrastructure, simultaneously have a positive and significant effect on the dependent variable as learning independency. Based on the result of multiple linear regression, analyze the equation y is 2.124 plus 0.049 and 0.824 shows that the level of student learning independency is positively influenced by learning motivation and learning infrastructure. Next is conclusion. There is a positive and significant direct effect between learning motivation on learning independency. This shows that the higher level of learning motivation possessed by students, the higher level of student learning independency. Conversely, the lower the level of student motivation to learn, the lower level of student learning independency. Second, there is a positive and significant direct effect between learning infrastructure on learning independency. This shows that the better the learning infrastructure, the highest the level of student learning independency. Conversely, the lower the learning infrastructure, the lower student learning independency. And the last is there is a positive and significant direct effect simultaneous between learning motivation and learning infrastructure on learning independency. So it can be concluded the higher of level learning independency, motivation and learning infrastructure, the higher the student learning independency and vice versa. That's all for the explanation of this thesis that I can do present. Sorry if there are any mistake. I really hope for criticism and suggestion. Thank you for your attention and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.